What's up, everyone? We are back and we have a new farming strategy, or at least one you can add on to your farming strategies that has to do with the ports and the mapping and everything else to do with King's March. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and let's get into it. Now I'm going to make this really quick. If you want something more in depth, Ziggy D, as you've probably heard from a million other videos, everything has done a pretty good in-depth guide at how the mechanics work. I'm not going to go over that. I'm going to go over what works, so you can just watch this video, just copy what I'm doing, and you're going to see good returns. Now, the first thing you want to do when you really start getting into King's March and you get towards mapping and endgame is you want to upgrade your farm as far as possible, and the reason for that is sending out crops on the port gives you mixed currency. It is what gives you currency. The metal bars and the ore will not give you currency. They give you items and some other random things. Now, it is also quantity over quality. During the day especially, you want to be sending to the lower time ports and sending smaller shipments. The reason for this is that the shipment stuff has severe diminishing returns. 27,000 is not that much better than just 1 to 2,000. It just isn't. It is better, don't get me wrong, but it is not some crazy multiplier, and you are not getting 27 times the loot of when you send just 1,000. It is also better to send a little bit of everything if you can. That seems to be the strategy that is working for me and what a lot of other people have reiterated in their comments and their testing. Now, there are 3 things that you want to go through with each shipment. You want to send a lot of variety of stuff and a lot of variety of crops. There is a cheat sheet that Ziggy D made on what you can send to certain ports to get certain things like ward items or intelligence armor or intelligence weapons, things like that. We aren't going to go into that. I will leave a link in the description to that awesome cheat sheet. But generally what you want to do is you want to be sending a variety of crops. You want to be sending the items that are in their quota, mostly because there's an invisible modifier where the more times you hit quota on your ports, there's a global thing that just makes all the rewards and the amount of quota you have to hit higher and higher as you complete more quotas. So during the day, I like to do the 2 quick ones, which is Ribbonfell and Nakanu, because they are about 30 to 35 minutes. With my level of ship, I have the port upgraded to full, and with the ship people that I have. Now, with the short ports, with Ribbonfell, you are going to be getting, you are going to want to send Verisium ore, which is the highest ore, if you can, because you are going to get scarabs back when you send to Ribbonfell with Verisium, and scarabs sell very well. Very profitable. It is my main farming strategy. I did a video on Monday about how I'm mostly just maximizing scarabs, as in selling them in the currency exchange makes that a ton better. So you almost always want to throw some Verisium in on the Ribbonfell shipments. Now, Nakanu, when you send stuff, you're going to get tattoos back most of the time. The more stuff you send, the more tattoos you're going to get. But again, it's still not worth it to be cranking it and fully sending all of your stuff on one shipment. So it's not that big a deal. You'll get, 2 to 4 tattoos on average if you follow this strategy. But I've gotten many, many, many tattoos that are 10 all the way to 100C, something like movement speed, or the more sought after ones, or decent ones like chaos resistance and things like that. So these 2 are great. Just make sure you're sending Verisium to Ribbonfell when you can, and then Nakanu, you're just going to get tattoos in general. So when I send, what do? Well, I select a port. Let's say I want to go to Ribbonfell. This time, I go to my shipment. I'm going to do about 2,000 wheat because I have a bunch of wheat. I also have a bunch of corn because, again, these are the first shipments I'm sending after I went to bed last night. So my farmed a bunch of stuff while I was sleeping. I'm going to do 2,000 pumpkins. You can also copy and paste these numbers right here. And then I have some Verisium, and since it's Ribbonfell, I want some scarabs. So I'm going to send 1644 of that Verisium bars to get some scarabs. Now, with the dust, that is a multiplier. The breakpoints are at 55, 550, and 8,000. So you get 2 times, or maybe 1.5 times at like 55. And it keeps going up. You want to be sending at least 550 disenchanting dust, especially once you get near mapping, and in mapping is not hard to get. So you want to be sending at least 550. I end up sending 8,300. I think 8,000 is the breakpoint to get triple the loot modifier. But I send 8,300, I think, because I am partially OCD, and it just feels better to go a little bit higher. Now, if you're playing out throughout the day, your farms will not be able to keep up with sending 2,000 of each of these every single time. So you can break it down to probably about 500 to 1,000 of each of these. I'll show you my farm and how I do it in a second. But yeah, if I'm just sending this because I have a bunch saved up from last night, like I said. But generally, you want to be sending anywhere between 500 to 2,000 of each one. So that is it. Hit done. And I'm going to set sail for Ribbonfell. It only takes 31 minutes with a fully upgraded port. Now, these are ones that I sent last night. And I sent this morning when I woke up and checked the other ones. So this is a Ribbonfell one. Look, you see we got a Divine Orb. We got an Exalt. Stuff like that. I want to clear these. Discard all if you have any extras. And then obviously clear the second one. And then just send them right back out. Now at night, I send it to the 4-hour one. I do not send a ton of stuff. Again, I am hitting the quotas if they want. Sending some pumpkins, some orichalcum if I want. Same thing with these. You can send Byzantium or going to anywhere. Anyway, you can send a little bit of Verisium. Sometimes I'd rather send that to Ribbonfell. But if you get lucky, you fight a couple of the bosses, get some Verisium, you want to send and hit that quota anyways. When you upgrade your farm, you're going to want to put the highest level workers you can. As you can see, I have 10s and 9s on every single one of these plots, and I still can't keep up with sending more than maybe 1,000 every time a ship comes back, especially if you have multiple ships going out. So it's very important to spread it out and do, because again, quantity is better than quality. So you want to be continuously sending out shipments and not just pumping up one shipment all the time. So I got one on wheat, I got one on corn, I got one on pumpkins, I got one on Orgord, and then I think I have, yes, 2 on blue xanthemum, just simply because they take the longest, so having 2 on this is beneficial. Now, until you level up your plots, you can just do something like wheat and corn, the fastest producing plants, and just focus on those and send those. Ideally, you want to be sending all the crops, but if you're just starting out and doing it, just sending a couple crops like wheat or corn, it's perfectly fine. Now, for the mapping, there are boats and islas the Ho. I should edit that. Nah, I'm going to leave it in. But for the mapping is great. It is not as good as sending the shipments, but you can do more of them quicker. The problem is, when it is worth it, is when you start getting workers that are higher level, like 10s and 9s like I have. The problem is, they are friggin' expensive. You can see 3,000, 3,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Just mapping constantly is incredibly expensive. Now, if you're ripping through T16 maps, that is not really a problem. Or if you're running Cortex maps or any synthesized maps, or you're running T17s, you will have more than enough gold to sustain this. But I highly suggest waiting to map until you're starting to do that, and you can run red rare maps pretty consistently while keeping with the upkeep of gold. It's just not very worth it. Now, if you have some extra maps, you can throw in, I always elk them, ones that I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run these Desert Spring maps. If there's Crystal Ore map, you send it in there. You always want the highest clear percentage probability and the lower chance for them to die. Duh. So these are 1% because I have 10s and 9s. If it's more like a 10 or 15%, I don't run it, which would be like a full quality corrupted map would give a much higher percent for these people to die. But just regular Elk Rare maps T16, these guys can do. Now, one thing of note, if you give them something like Shapers, Elders, Guardian maps, stuff like that, something that drops a fragment, they will give you the fragment if they 100% the map. I put 12 Shaper maps in here, and only 4 of them, even though none of them died, and they were able to do most of the map at 70, 80%. They were not giving fragments because the only way they do that is if they 100% the map. Or maybe it's 90% or higher. Not really sure, but you're guaranteed to get the fragment at 100% clear. So it is not worth sending them on these maps until probably you have a full set of 10s, level 10 people, or you will not get the fragment. It's better just to run those by yourself. Now, I have gotten a lot of good stuff from the mapping. I've gotten a handful of Valdo's puzzle boxes that sell for about $1.50, I believe, and things like that. I found some good gems. I found some good rare gear and all of that. But one of the first things I always do when I'm mapping and I clear my maps is when they are done, I take out all of the items, the rare items. You can hold Alt and see if there's a good amount of T1 mods or if it's a 5 or a 6 link, because those will disenchant for more, and you're going to want to be disenchanting these random rares to get your dust up for the multiplier for sending to your ports. So that's the rotation. A lot of smaller shipments. When you go overnight, you can do the longer ones, and you should. You do not have to send a ton more stuff, but you can. Make sure you have your gold, so your farmers are farming all night, so you have enough for the next day's shipment of crops that you're going to send. When you're mapping, just be very careful. Make sure you have gold to upkeep it. If you don't, it's more worth it to upgrade your town in certain areas of your town before you waste a lot of gold on mapping, especially at the lower levels. Take the items from the map, the rare ones that you aren't going to sell, use, or keep, or hold on to, and just give them to Rog at the Disenchanter. That's basically it. Yeah. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. Make sure you get liked and subscribed to the video, and write a comment about how you're liking the league. If there's anything I missed, I do miss things. In my farming video last time, I said you have to scour and chisel your maps, or I suggest you do that. Apparently that's not a thing anymore. Now you can chisel just rare unidentified maps with 4 chisels all the way to 20%. I did not know that. That is friggin' awesome. So anything or any tips, make sure always checking the notes in the description if I think of anything while I'm editing to add in there. And always read some of the comments if you want. That usually have some good tips on this. But this was just a quick rundown on what I do, what has been very profitable. So make sure you get joined up on the Discord, links in the description. Not to mention, get followed over on twitch.tv/SafeOnTalk, which I'm streaming multiple times a week. You can ask any questions and just generally come hang out with us. So I appreciate it, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.